lot to discuss there. Maybe this will end up being a bit of a series as we dive into that, because much of my background has been on commercial open source combo for most of the products I've worked with. So let me just give you the basic background, and then I'm going to give you a little bit of a different way to think about the problem itself. So the problem itself is really that there's free open source software that's available for people to download and use. And then there are at the other extreme, proprietary software that you can never access the source code to, and therefore you really don't own it. You don't have any control over how it's running on your computers or servers. Quite often you're forced to do updates or you're locked out. Everybody who uses a cell phone is familiar with that scenario. So in between though, there is like a hybrid model where a company will develop some software. They will release it for free using an open source license, so you're free to download it, modify the source code, use it more or less however you want within your company. But there will be different add-ons or capabilities that are available that cost money. So we call this kind of proprietary add-ons or enterprise add-ons or enterprise capabilities or features. So it really is, think of it more like what the different versions of software offer, because it's usually different. So there is often a core or base component that is open source. So in like a database, for example, the database itself is available through a SQL query language. But then there might be additional enterprise capabilities such as distributed computing, so like developing a cluster, or some kind of high availability capability so that things don't fail over and you have multiple nodes that kind of watch for each other's failures. Things like that are really, they're really more of an enterprise feature for a large company that has really has money, in one way to think of it. They actually have a budget probably for IT as opposed to a smaller company or an individual. So that's kind of what I'd like to look at. I'll just switch over to a slide that just summarizes these three different types of software deployments. I want to encourage you to not think of it so much as open source versus proprietary, but think about it as a range of different kinds of deployments within companies, or even outside companies, could be schools or individuals for that matter. The one that we're all most familiar with is the single user. Now, many of you that have been following what I'm doing are just getting into the product management space, or you're consulting, or you're doing some business management education. The single user environment is, you download a piece of software, you use it. You're gonna have to spend a lot of time getting up to speed on how to really apply it as best as possible. But there's no cost to doing this, and this typical individual user has the time available to learn and dig in and maybe modify, improve, and add their own capabilities and features on top of the product. So that's like kind of like a single user has a lot of flexibility. They can choose what software to use. They can choose whether they want to spend money to do it or not. They can even go and hire help if they needed some more capabilities added or something like that. So that's the general user. And a lot of times when we talk about open source communities, we're often talking to kind of single users, either in a large enterprise or as a kind of an individual private consultant. You can probably guess where this is going. That the next one is at the team level. So within a company, it becomes more important that the different individuals align how they're solving certain problems. You don't want to just have everybody using their own piece of software or their own tool. I know that happens out there. Get with the program if you're in that boat. You need to align and not just to establish best practices, but to really make a difference by using the same tools across the board wherever possible. You'll actually have an alignment benefit there, and you'll be able to deliver products more capably, and you'll actually have backup plans for when people leave the company or new tools are introduced. How you train other people to use them is really important. But that's a whole nother lecture in itself. But there's an alignment requirement between members of a team. And what they really need are certain capabilities. They need to be able to share data or share projects, work together using a shared infrastructure. So maybe you could think of this more like, say, a multi-user database, one that needs to have different levels of access control and security. things like that become a little more important when you're working in a team. Maybe you're talking about integration with a code repository so that you're sharing the load of a programming project. That level requires a little more sophistication, often because it's a team, it's already a corporate environment. They can afford to spend some money to get access to those capabilities, to have those capabilities built for them, or to buy those capabilities off the shelf from a provider that's building on top of the base core product. Then the enterprise model here is really the large company, maybe a Fortune 5,000 kind of company, and they need like tight alignment across the whole company because they've got so many people doing database analysis or developer software development, and they need that integration to be as tight as possible. But they don't just need good integration like any team does. They need it to really fit into the overall architecture, IT architecture, you could say, for the whole company. So there are different issues there, and it's about scalability, about performance, about future proofing, making sure that there is a plan for how this thing is going to be used and installed and managed over time. And most of all, the requirement for professional support needs to be there. They need to be able to pick up a phone, call and say, I've got an emergency, or submit a ticket and get someone on the phone to fix a problem with them ASAP. That takes time from people. That needs to cost money to really get access to that kind of expertise. So as you move from left to right on this diagram, you're getting more complex, you're getting more sophisticated requirements, and you're getting a higher cost to use the software. That doesn't mean that you can't build an enterprise solution on purely open source software. You can. People are doing it all the time. But quite often they're using it as a prototyping environment or development environment to prove things out. But once they start to deploy it and their product or service takes off, they're going to be looking for that professional support. So from a marketing and product marketing angle, keep in mind that you need a message for each one of these types of deployments. Now, if you're just focusing on enterprise all the time, you're going to focus on the kind of the higher level business buyer, the IT person needs to be able to sign off on this approach. Even though it might be a data scientist that really needs it, other people are going to be involved. On the other extreme, when you're an individual user, you need to hear that you've got something you can use, you can get up and running quick with. You still need to have a very user-friendly experience. You want to tell and market to that user the value that comes with the single user version of your software. So adjust your messaging accordingly and you'll do fine. But just keep in mind, there are different personas in here as well. I'm not going to dive in too much on personas, but think about it. The individual data analyst or data scientist just needs a tool to do something. A whole company actually needs a big solution, and they need it tightly integrated. So of course your messaging is going to change there. You're going to have different messaging for different audiences because they have different kinds of deployments. So that's really answering the question of kind of how to market, a little bit of an intro to open source marketing in a commercial enterprise environment. Here are all my contacts. I'll put them in the description for the video as well. Please set up a call with me. I'm available for 30-minute complimentary calls with people who need product coaching, want to talk about your roadmap. I can give you some ideas on where to go. And if you need some career coaching too, I'm having a great week talking to students or aspiring product managers and product marketers. That's been really great. So use that call link there to book a call with me. My schedule is right there, readily available for you. But please also go to my survey there, survey.onemitchell.co, and I'd love to hear your input on the survey that I have active at the moment. But give me a call, drop me an email. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you. Bye.